One's ready. One's ready. Go!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. This is your daily drop for the 4th of April, brought to you by barbellapparel.com. Check out Barbell Apparel's sale that they have going on until the 28th of April, which is the 4th month. That's why I got that confused. Anyway, it's buy two, get one free with select items. You can mix and match items, and then you're going to get the lowest priced item completely free. They've got dress shirts, workout shorts, graphic tees, polos, joggers, chinos, jeans. They're all stretchy. So if you're a quadzilla, then these are the folks for you. But upon checkout, let them know that we sent you by selecting One's Ready. And if not, hit other and then type us in. All right. This is the news. And if you're new here, this is the news that is sent out to... It is curated by Public Affairs and sent out to all Air Force commanders and chiefs daily, except for on the weekends. And it's broken down into joint news, Air Force news, Space Force news, and then of interest. So first off, joint news. Commanders of EUCOM and AFRICOM debated merging their commands, with General Christopher Cavoli calling it a stretch due to Africa's 50 extra countries. General Michael Langley noted rising terrorism influence from Russia and China. So EUCOM, or AFRICOM actually, was born out of EUCOM. Like if you look at, I guess it probably would be about 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago now at this point. EUCOM handled everything in Africa, as well as Europe, which is obviously challenging. So that's why they stood up AFRICOM to kind of focus on Africa, because it's such a large piece of land, plus with all the different countries and different conflicts and everything like that. The places I love going to Africa because if you ever seen Blood Diamonds, they say TIA, this is Africa. And that is 100% true, because you never know what you're going to see. And there's always some wild shit going on there. So, but the influence with Russia and China is a real thing. In fact, we have we have several bases over there, but one of the prominent bases right next door, and I don't mean like down the street, I mean right next door, is a Chinese base as well. So tell me that's not an issue. All right, next. General Cavoli argued against ceding NATO Supreme Allied Commander role in Europe, citing risk to U.S. nuclear oversight and alliance strength. And I don't know. That to me sounds like he just wants to stay in command, but I could be wrong. I don't know all the intricate details about that, but to me that sounds like he just wants to stay in command. Now there is something to be said for a unified command, because then it's one person, at the top that makes the decisions, instead of like, ooh, we've got to coordinate with these people, then we got to coordinate with these people. We got to make sure that we're not messing up their battle space and anything like that, because that stuff is a pain in the ass and it requires a lot of coordination, and it does keep you from doing things quickly in terms of like responses to events happening and stuff like that. So there is an argument to be made for that for sure. Next, the Defense Innovation Unit launched the Blue Manufacturing Marketplace to link tech firms with advanced manufacturers, speeding up DoD acquisitions. Yes, let's do it. Sounds like it's almost like you put the companies up there, or maybe it's a marketplace where the DoD puts what they're requiring, what they're looking for, and then small businesses and other manufacturers can kind of peruse that and go, hey, we do that. We make that widget. Let's go after that one. So that's probably a good thing. Get into the 21st century a little bit. So, all right, next. Wait a minute, lost my place there. Okay, there we go. DoD Inspector General began probing Defense Secretary's signal use for sharing Houthi strikes, focusing on security and records compliance. Dude, can we get past this already? I'm sorry that I keep bringing it up. Well, it's not me bringing it up. They just keep talking about it. NSA Director General Timothy Haw and Deputy Wendy Noble were fired, sparking bipartisan criticism from Congress. He was the NSA chief. I don't know anything about him. I know that Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Joanne Bass, put something out about him being incredible. At the same time, she also put something out about CQ Brown being incredible. Like, I don't think CQ Brown was that great, but that's just my opinion. I don't know anything about General Ha. So obviously, the thing about this, right, is that if you work for a boss or a CEO and you're not aligned with them, or you keep undermining them, or you're not doing as good of a job as they want you to be doing, or you're like, whatever it is, like, it'd be a multitude of different things. If you're not aligned with that, whether it's the military or CEO or small business, whatever it is, like, you're going to get fired. So at some level, he wasn't working out. Neither was Wendy Noble. So they got rid of her, or both of them. So I don't know. Defense Secretary pushed for sex-neutral combat fitness tests, has alarmed women veterans who fear impacts on recruiting and retention. Lori Finner, who's an intel person of 26 years, colonel, questioned its fairness despite Hegseth's aim for high standards. Okay, first off, what would Lori Finner in intel ever know anything about combat-related jobs? You're an intel analyst. Like, you have no clue. Just because you're a woman, you have zero idea of anything related to what is required in a combat situation. So with that is, I don't know that many women that want to be are actively recruited and actively trying to be retained, who want to come in and be Air Force Special Warfare, Navy SEALs, or anything like that. There are some, and the ones that are usually complete freaking badasses, and they don't want special treatment. So and guess what? The enemy and the environment, nature, doesn't give a shit whether you're a woman or a man. Like, it's going to treat everybody equally and unfairly. So Lori Finner can shut the hell up, as far as I'm concerned. Air Force News. The first OA-1K Skyraider 2 arrived at Hurlburt Field, hailed by General Michael Conley as a versatile asset for aircraft. Was it $2 billion later, and took them forever to get it out there? Not General Conley, but AFSOC. So I don't know. It looks like a what is that movie? Planes. It looks like the crop duster, except they put guns on it. So I don't know. Hopefully it's very capable, because it's going to be my community that's on the ground getting support by it. So I hope it's very capable, and I hope the pilots that we train to fly it are complete badasses and go out there and crush the mission. Next, Air Force Academy Superintendent Lieutenant General Tony Bauerfein proposed cutting over 100 civilian faculty to favor uniformed instructors, facing cadet pushback. The plan needs Air Force Secretary approval. So you guys know I'm not a big fan of Tony Bauerfein. However, there's two parts to this. One part is, yes, that we do need more uniformed instructors and more uniform wearing people at operational units and stuff like that. That is 100% true. That doesn't mean that they need to replace the government civilians that we have there, because one of the beautiful things that government civilians provide is continuity, because they typically do not move that often. They stay in place. Now, you can and I can definitely make the argument that sometimes they stay in place too long, or they get stuck in their ways and they end up being roadblocks. That does happen. But the whole point of a civilian is to remain continuity and be the one person or multiple people that have stayed there and can provide amplifying data as new commanders, new chiefs, and new enlisted or new uniform wearers roll in. So, I don't think that you need to cut civilians. I just think maybe you increase your uniform instructors. And I think that would meet the intent. But there are obviously challenges with that, budgetary challenges, billeting challenge, or not billeting, but like manning position challenges and all that kind of stuff. So next is Colonel Joe Coughlin was relieved as a 557th Weather Wing commander due to a January arrest despite dropped charges. Lieutenant General Thomas Hensley cited leadership standards in the decision. Okay, dude, is it me or is this just random? Like, why would public affairs even put this in there? For like, imagine Air Force public affairs, out of all the commanders and everything that all happens and everybody gets fired and all this kind of stuff, that your name and your unit gets put out to the entire Air Force and Space Force. Like, just that random. It's weird. Space Force news. General Chance Saltzman warned of China's counterspace weapons threaten U.S. satellites, calling their progress mind-boggling to the U.S.-China Commission. He stressed the need for robust space defenses. Completely agree. We've talked about this. The dogfighting in space between satellites, like it's going to be a real freaking issue here pretty soon. It's already an issue now, really, but it's going to get even worse. Next, General Saltzman labeled China's orbital capabilities as a destabilizing force, urging policy shifts to counter experimental satellites. He highlighted budget limits as a key hurdle. Yeah, well, Space Force gets 3% of the DoD budget, and they're putting shit in space and require robust comms networks and all that kind of stuff. So I don't see how they are going to be able to do what they do unless they get an increase. Like that's a real issue. We talked about the Space Force over and over again. You guys are tired of hearing about it, but if you are interested in it even more, go check out our episode with retired Lieutenant General Deptula, and he goes in depth on stuff, and it was a great conversation. Next is General Saltzman criticized lagging U.S. Space Force policy, saying overclassification and hesitancy hinder Space Force evolution against China. He called for higher level focus on space threats. Absolutely. But it's not just space or U.S. space agencies or anything like that that overclassify things. Your everyday Joe, your everyday airman, guardian, whatever, overclassify things. They're working on secure networks, and then before you are able to send an email and stuff like that, you have to select the classification and all the how many Five Eyes is a no for and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times people just don't know, so they just automatically click secret. They automatically click top secret, or or secret with different caveats and stuff like that. So it's a big issue actually. And we're not willing to take risks on reading other people into things and all that kind of good stuff. Anyway, getting into the weeds, you guys don't care. Of interest, Secretary of State Marco Rubio pressed NATO allies to boost defense spending to 5% of the GDP during Brussels talks. Trump's stance signals a push for Europe to shoulder more defense burden. Yeah, I don't have the numbers, but I heard him the other day. Like, it is mind-blowing how much the U.S., fund NATO compared to everybody else, which, there's been talks of us even pulling out of NATO, and it wouldn't surprise me if that actually happens here in the next 4 years. Next, Senator Roger Wicker slammed Pentagon plans to cut U.S. troops in Europe, calling them misguided. Amid Russia's actions, General Cavoli opposed relinquishing NATO command roles. We talked about that earlier. So it's one of those things, right? It is insanely expensive to have our troops living and stationed in Europe. Like, we pay rent, like we pay a lease to have that base, and we pay our service members extra for being overseas, and they love it. Like, I loved my time overseas. You guys know that, or if you didn't know, I spent 8 years over in the United Kingdom, and I loved it. And it was fantastic, and went all over Europe and Germany and everything. So, like, it's awesome. But if we want to talk about making real cuts to money, that's closing down some of those bases. Like, it's insane how many bases, and even if they're just small little posts, that we have in Germany. Like it would be, I wonder how many that is. I wonder if I could actually look that up really quick just to see how many bases we have in Germany. My problem is that I'm holding the mic though, so let's check this out. How many US bases are in Germany? All right, let's see what, now I'm using Grok right now just to see how many it is. Let's see if it gives me a good number or not. Because it doesn't even look like the internet is very good right now. All right. Jeez. Okay. So it says, as early as 2025, the United States maintains over 40 military installations in Germany. 40. This number reflects active bases operated by various branches of the U.S. military, primarily the Army and the Air Force, with some sources specifying around 40 to 47 installations, depending on how smaller sites are counted. That's crazy numbers for such a small country. Anyway, yeah. All right. Startups Novi and Sidaro demoed edge autonomy in small spacecrafts, enhancing responsiveness in low Earth orbit. SpaceWorks, Sebastian Welch said it's a vital for contested orbits. Yeah. Like we talked about it yesterday, the more smaller businesses get in here, the better. Partnering with SpaceX and Blue Origin and NASA and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is great. Let's keep this up. Next one, Mehdi Alassani called for massive AI and energy investments. He wants 160 million GPUs by 2030 to maintain U.S. edge. He proposed nuclear expansion in red state data centers. Yeah, one of the issues with getting all these kind of centers is the power consumption and the temperature. So, well, because you need the power to run the things, but then you also need that power to also be able to cool all of these servers and everything like that. And so nuclear is the cleanest. Nuclear is probably the best way to go. I mean, if you look at Grok 3 that X did, Elon Musk went out and he bought some like abandoned warehouse, threw all the servers in there, threw all the power supplies and solar and batteries, and like he just... And this is why it's so amazing to watch it on a private sector, because it can happen so quickly. They don't have to go through all these federal laws and all that kind of stuff, all the bureaucracy. Whereas if the military had to do this, you're talking a 15-year plan. And I think he did it in 120 days, I think is what it was, that's nuts. So anyway, that's been your news for the 4th of April. Head over to barbellapparel.com, grab yourself some swag, and then head on over to woodsradio.com. We just did a restock on all of our merch. Well, the merch that was gone, and get yourself some. All right, we're out here. Later.